You are listening to Night Dreams Talk Radio Network, from our compound to you worldwide, with your host, Gary Anderson.
Eons ago, when eagles were born, the Godhead let us reign free. We were on the run and the continuum, making choices in a cosmic spree. To exalt the self or enrich the whole, a thought process that endures today. A conundrum under a naked sun of what to think or when to pray.
You may know us as the Watchers, and we're watching over you. You may find the game is ancient. You might think the game is new. We come from different realms, and we are not all the same. You may know us as the Watchers, but we have our own end game.
Some came with high vibrations to straighten out a mess. Some came for domination in a cosmic game of chess. The final chapter's being written and the dice are being tossed. The game will come unbidden when the game is won or lost.
You may know us as the Watchers, and we're watching over you. You may find the game is ancient. You might think the game is new. We come from different realms, and we are not all the same. You may know us as the Watchers, but we have our
Night Dreams Talk Radio, After Dark, wants to give a big shout out to all the truckers that listen to our show.
And I certainly do. Without you guys, we would not be here. So you're a major part of this show. What can I say? Please keep up with those great stories of what happens when you're doing a long haul at night. Those creepy paranormal things. You know, you can contact us at nightdreamstalkradio@gmail.com. Well, James, you've been walking like a zombie for a couple of days like me without much sleep, huh?
Yeah, I have. It's just been busy and researching and investigating for stuff and coming up with guests and doing my studio. So, yeah, just all radio show related, basically.
Well, that's my problem. I know one night you were playing in your studio. Now you see what I do all the time. I wish I would have bought more zombie creatures for the studio. I need a bigger studio. I need to buy a bigger house.
Yeah, you do. You're going to have to add on to get all the creatures you want to put in there.
Or something, yeah. So what do you got in some paranormal news for us?
Well, kind of keeping with what's going on, this is I want to talk about just for a couple minutes here. An abduction, everybody, when they hear abductions, they think like the first one was Betty and Barney Hill, but actually there was one before that in, I think, 1957, and it was in South America. And the guy's name was Antonio Villas Boas or something like that. And he was he's from Brazil, I believe. Don't quote me on that one. But anyway, he was a farmer. And one night he was farming, or one evening there, afternoon, whatever. And a UFO came, a group of ETs measuring about 5 foot tall. And they took him on their spaceship and put him in a room where he saw a kind of a gas come out of the walls, and it made him kind of sick. Then a very attractive female, naked, with long platinum hair, deep blue cat eyes, came to him and forced him to have intercourse. Now, according to Villas, her intentions were quite clear: to produce a human-alien hybrid that she would raise on her planet. Now, after he got back, Villas noted that he had burns on his body. Now, a doctor, a reputable medical doctor, diagnosed them as radiation burns, and the doctor was Olavo Fontes. And
try to say that after you had a beer.
Yeah, say it once is tough. Say it 3 times in a row, I'll tell you. But anyway, I remember seeing a documentary on that a couple times too. But that was kind of like one of the first ones. But it wasn't in the United States; it was South America. But that was kind of like a segue into things to come, so to speak. I mean, wouldn't you say?
Interesting. Well, I got one for you. A guy goes into the hospital because he has major headaches. They discover a 3-foot-long tapeworm that has been eating his brain for at least 15 years.
Oh, my holy crap. I got to tell you what, that gives a new look to the term cheesehead, I'll tell you. Them tapeworms is no joke, man. They live in you for a long time, and I know the one way that people get them is eating raw fish or undercooked fish
or pork.
That's why, right. And I do not eat sushi at all. You can't pay me to eat sushi. Sorry. Mm-mm.
No, there was somebody just recently died from eating that here about a month ago.
Yeah, I mean, it just doesn't. Raw fish, I like my fish cooked with some butter and seasoning. I don't know. Call me crazy.
Eat as much fish as you can before they release all that radioactive water in Japan, because then who knows what the water will be like. Because a lot of the fish, even like salmon and stuff like that comes off the Pacific Ocean, and you guys buy it like you wouldn't believe where you're at. And you know what? You don't want to eat fish, and all of a sudden you go to bed at night and take your shirt off and you're glowing.
Yeah, it gives a new term to bioluminescence for sure. Yeah, you'd be glowing, and you might grow a baby arm out your forehead or something.
Yeah, who knows what can happen. A teacher in Louisiana was accused of writing students fake notes, doctor notes, so they could get out of school for $20 a hit.
What has the world come to?
I know, bad, isn't it? I would have charged at least $30 or $40. I would have no way done it for $20. That's crazy. That's just totally asinine.
They weren't thinking. I mean, come on. They could have pumped that up a little bit more. That's just, oh man. I gotta tell you, listen, my teachers in my day, listen, if they were mad enough, they didn't get a paddle. They just haul off and slug you and hit you and beat you up. I mean, I couldn't imagine. Times have really changed, I'll tell you. And now they're charging, now they're extorting you for taking bribes and stuff. That's bizarre.
Well, another thing, in California, a passenger in a car got his leg impaled by a metal bar. What there was a truck in front of the car. This metal bar, falls off the truck, bounces, comes through the windshield, and impales the guy's leg.
Oh, wow. That's painful, because when that goes in, that's whatever mass that's taking up, that mass is, some of that is gone. It's missing. You'll never get it back again. And that's some painful stuff, I'll tell you. That reminds me of the guy in the late 1800s building a railroad. And there was, they used dynamite and explosion, and a rod like you're mentioning went flying, projectile, and went through his head and took probably 2/5 of his left side, because it went through his head. They thought he was dead, but the guy lived with 2/5 of his head gone. And he lived a full life too, but I seen pictures of it. I think it was in Believe It or Not or something, one of them. But
you mean most of his head was gone?
About, I'd say a quarter of it. Yeah.
New meaning to head, I'll tell you that.
You said it, I didn't say.
Well, I mean, it is. I mean, you think about it. Then I remember the story that this one guy had a normal job. He was a CPA. He was functioning normal, married and had kids. And he goes in to the hospital and they do an MRI on him and find out he had no brain. He was everything he developed was off his brain stem. So that means, do we actually need a full brain to function? Here, a guy was holding a job down as a CPA, crunching numbers all day, being able to communicate. He must have known how to, procreate, with his wife, have children. I was going to say another word, and I decided to quit right before I did. But you know what? With no brain. Now, it's true. People have been born without the full brain or partial brain, and they manage to hold it down a normal life just off the brain stem. But then somebody gets hit in the head, the trauma, they're a vegetable all their life. I don't understand. I don't think the medical field, out there really knows how a brain even totally functions yet.
No, they just don't. It's because it's like a computer, biological computer, so to speak, and we don't even know what we could tap into with it, really. He would also be safe in a zombie apocalypse, too, because he wouldn't have no brains to eat. But, yeah, that's amazing how, the human can adapt and overcome. And that's, another thing, you've ever seen them people, like they got half a body, but they walk around on their hands and do everything anybody else can do. And so it's just a matter of adapting and overcoming. I mean, your handicap, I guess, is only as limiting as you let it to be, I guess.
Well, there's two famous girls, that are born together. I can't think of their names. And they have two heads, one body. Okay, and they share all the same stomach. They share all the internal organs. They each got married. Now, could you imagine how can you be married that way? I mean, you go to bed at night, and what's four of you in the bed? You must have a very special relationship. If one of them gets jealous, what are they going to do? Slap the other their other head in the face? I don't know. It's crazy.
That kind of reminds me. Do you remember the original Siamese twins from the 1800s? They were Oriental. Well, they were Siamese, and they did circus acts and stuff. They were hooked, and they were married and stuff in the same kind of scenario. And I know they tried for years to get doctors to, separate them. They was afraid, they would die or something, but because they just didn't know much. But yeah, that would be a bizarre setup. That's for sure. That would definitely could make some people mad or jealous or cause some kind of turmoil, maybe.
Yeah, but it would be, I think, emotional. Of course, they were born that way, so they, that's their life. But when you look at it as an outsider, I'm not talking about the sex part. I'm talking about look what would happen to them. I mean, the whole life. Well, especially when they get older. One might go senile, the other one's not senile, and you got to live with your other head. I don't know.
Yeah, you couldn't even go in the other room. You'd have to. That would be really rough sometimes, especially if you're going on 60, 70 years of it. I'll tell you, I can see that.
In North Carolina, a man was arrested for impersonating a cop. But he only got arrested after he pulled over a murder suspect and arrested him. And then the other police officers realized, well, this guy isn't in our police department. So he got arrested for impersonating a police officer. But the good news is he made a major bust, so he's going to get an award.
Oh, he should have went with, hey, man, I'm going to a Halloween party, and I'm making a citizen's arrest for you guys. It's a wonder he didn't pull over a cop, because I did see a story of that one about a month ago where a guy was impersonating. He pulled a guy or a person over, and it was a cop. Undercut, he was out off duty, but what's the odds of that?
Well, there was a better one last week. A guy pulls over a van. Now, the guys in the van just went to a police convention. So there was a van full of, guess what? Police officers. And he pulls them over for speeding. Now, look at the embarrassment he had to go through. I mean, figure 5 or 6 or 7 cops. You pull a cop over for speeding, and, you're not a cop. They're going to discover that really fast.